from a young age, the age of about 7 years old, I remember being in Sunday school in church. We had to write a song about God, and my song was called Jesus and God. And that was the chorus. It was like a rap. I had some verses. I still remember the verses. I'm not going to sing it now. And I remember the pastor, one of the youth workers, he took the piece of paper and changed the words. So originally my song was Jesus and God, and the pastor changed it to Jesus is God. And around 7 years old, I was like, what? This was like a light bulb moment where I realized that I don't believe in this faith. I do not believe Jesus is God. My concept of Jesus was that he's a man, he's a human being, he's a prophet of God, and there's no way I was going to accept that Jesus is God. So this was the first instance where I started to question, well, what is the right religion? Because I did believe in God, and my concept of God was what my concept of God is today. We can't imagine God. He's one. He's something beyond our comprehension. But there was no way I was going to accept that Jesus is God. So this was shocking for me. From a young age, I knew, what's going on. All my family, my friends, my community, they're all following this religion, and it doesn't make sense. It was very eye-opening.
When did you first hear about Islam?
I would say the first time I started to hear about Islam and think about it as a religion was 9/11. I remember I was in school, I was in a woodwork class. Now I was making my GCSE product of a rocking horse, and there was a lot of commotion. The teacher got the 9/11 incident on the laptop, and we were shocked, that somebody had flew a plane into the World Trade Centers. And all I heard was the Muslims, it's Muslims, it's Muslims. And from then I went home and I was watching the news, and I remember when America and other countries were going into Iraq and Afghanistan. I remember watching it on the news, thinking, yeah, let's go and get these Muslims. I was kind of like cheering them on, not knowing anything about Islam. All I thought I knew was that Islam is a terrorist religion, these people are evil, and that was kind of my first introduction.
For what reason did you feel the attraction towards Islam?
Initially, I was looking into Islam online. I was watching YouTube when YouTube first came out, coming across some different videos. I also, at the age of 18, I traveled to Senegal in West Africa. And for those who don't know, Senegal is a Muslim country. When I was in Senegal, I was actually quite scared of Muslims initially because of 9/11, because I had many misconceptions about Muslims. So actually going to Senegal opened my mind. I realized, number one, that there's African Muslims. I had never seen African Muslims. So I was really interested in understanding, how did Islam come here, And when I went to Senegal, this was the first time I actually heard the adhan. It was fascinating. I was really happy to hear the call to prayer. I wanted to understand it. I wanted to understand the meaning. And I met some Muslims. I came across a brother who, at the time, he was working in the hotel, and he invited me to his house, to stay in his house. So I ended up living with him for some time. I went to a Muslim wedding, I went to a Muslim funeral, and I witnessed him and his mother and his family praying. We ate together, sitting on the floor, and all these things were amazing to me.
At that time, did becoming a Muslim cross your mind?
But I wasn't convinced on Islam. So even though I liked the culture, I liked my experience, this wasn't enough to make me a Muslim. This just sparked my interest even more to it was kind of weird, because I started to attack Islam by using Christianity. Even though I knew Christianity wasn't true, culturally I was still Christian. So I started to, try to find problems with Islam, spark discussion with some of the Muslims. But the more I researched, the more I questioned Islam, the more I was impressed about the teachings and the message of the Quran. And I guess I was willing to accept Islam. When I say willing to accept Islam, I mean I was willing to give Islam a chance, because the Africans had a part to teach me about Islam.
When and how did you accept Islam?
I eventually accepted Islam when I was 23 years old. I was doing some research, but again, at the time, I was not willing to give up singing. I was not willing to give up certain things. And I didn't know how to become a Muslim. In fact, I didn't know I could be a Muslim. I thought Islam was something you're born with, something you inherit from your parents. I'd never known they were converts to Islam. It wasn't until when I was researching, I came across videos with people like Abdul Rahim Green and other people, converts, when I realized, wow, there's actually a lot of English and American people who are accepting Islam, and I can be a Muslim. So that was something that led me to think, okay, now this is something I should look into.
So who invited you then?
I was in Egypt at the time, and I went to a mosque and I asked my friend to teach me how to pray, and he refused. He said, no. He said, you're not a Muslim. I said, well, I believe, I fasted Ramadan, I tried to pray. He said, okay, you have to say the Shahada. I asked him, what is the Shahada? So he told me the Shahada, and I became a Muslim. I felt like a big weight was taken off my shoulders. I felt clean, and alhamdulillah, I already believed. It wasn't like the belief just came at that point. I've always believed in Allah. And then I went back to the UK. I tried to find a mosque, and I was still scared to go to the mosque. I felt that the Muslims were terrorists. I still had negative feelings about Muslims. So I went to a place, I thought it was a school, but it wasn't a school. It was a mosque. And subhanAllah, behind the reception, there was an Englishman. I was shocked. As a white man walking into a mosque, I was expecting to see Pakistanis and Arabs, and there's a white man. And he helped me, taught me the Fatiha, taught me the small surahs, and taught me how to pray. Every day I would go there, he would teach me how to pray, he would listen to me read the Quran, and there were some other brothers in the mosque. I would sit there having coffee, and they would be teaching me, and that's how I started my journey.